14 goals.
It's not the 12th man, I'll tell you that much.
No.
Right?
No.
And, I mean...
One point about our lineup is I have this in my notes, and Andrew, it would be at ANDLOVG on Twitter. He brought up the fact that this ends a 4-game streak of Colin Martin starting in U.S. Open matches. And I just bring that up because, like I said, I think the Minnesota United put a pretty good starting 11 on the field.
Well, I think they wanted to, and we talked about this before going into the Open, was they wanted to do well in the Open to kind of turn their season around a little bit because we were kind of in a funk.
Right. And we were three straight losses in league play.
Yeah, and we needed this. So when we go into this game, and the game starts off not well,
no.
I mean, I'm going, well, deja vu all over again. I mean, this is it,
Yeah, and, it continued not well.
Yes, it did.
I mean, we went down 2-0 at going into the half.
Yep.
Yeah,
and honestly, the thing is about that game is I felt like it was individual mistakes that led to goals. I mean, we had Gasper was in and Dotson was in, and I thought both of them played okay, but it was just overall individual mistakes kind of led to each thing just falling apart.
Yeah,
each goal.
I think like Eric Miller. If we're talking about individuals here, Eric Miller had a very early. He was actually bailed out, I think, by Gasper on the other side of goal, but it was right before their first, and it wasn't pretty that first. Well, I mean, the Houston scored, I think, in the 9th minute or just before that actually, and it was an early. We always talk about the first 10 minutes of a game. Well, it didn't go the Loons' way at all.
Yeah. But as completely un-Loon-esque as it could be, we won the game.
We did.
Which means we had to come back, and not only come back, but take the lead.
Yes.
From 2 goals down.
What happened in the locker room at halftime? Something happened.
Right. And, there's been a big thing ever since 2017 about how people don't believe Adrian Heath is a motivator. And I would tend to maybe agree with that. But yes, something had to happen in that locker room because I don't know that I've ever seen us come from 2 goals down on the road and win.
I mean, being down 2-0 on the road it's a deep hole to come out of. But I mean, I think they showed a few signs of life before halftime, but I mean, it was really, they came out. I mean, they made a change. You had a Barra coming in for Eric Miller.
Yep. Right.
That was, and why not? Again, you're trying to win this game. What do you have to lose?
But
exactly.
Think about coming back from 2-0 at the half in Houston in the heat. You played 45 minutes. You're drained emotionally, physically. What did happen at halftime? I mean, did they have like pills they took or what? I don't know.
Right. I mean, honestly, I don't want to. Not that Miguel Ibarra listens to us, but I don't want to give Miguel Ibarra a big head. But honestly, his fresh legs alone may have been enough to turn the tide. And obviously, I think he's a rather creative player for us. He's got good speed. He can cut in very well. He's obviously been a game changer for us ever since he's started playing for us years ago. So I think there's that, but then simply having a complete change of pace from Eric Miller on the left, I think that has a lot to do with why we suddenly turned it around. I really do.
So Darwin comes out after the half, and he's like a new person.
And I think that has a lot to do with Miguel Ibarra too.
Yeah, he's like he gets his goal in the 66th minute, and then we're going, oh wait, maybe we can do something here.
And actually, you said he scored in the 61st minute. I mean, just looking back at my notes of the game and just what I remember from the game is thinking through after the first 15 minutes up until the 60-minute mark in the second half, you're thinking, I was thinking, I should say, wow, this is unbelievable. There was save after save after save by Houston's goalkeeper, Michael Nelson, who was actually their third choice. He's like their backup to their backup.
Yeah.
But he had an amazing game up until because I was thinking at the 60-minute mark, shortly before they scored, he had made at least 3 tremendous saves early in the second half. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, oh great, they're going to come out. They're Minnesota's playing better, but they aren't going to have anything to show for it.
Yeah, and he ended with 6 saves.
Yeah, he had an outstanding performance. But Tony, you said it though, that I think once Darwin scored, the floodgates just opened.
Yeah. Once Darwin scored, I think everybody on the team thought we have a chance here. We can do this. I mean, this isn't. I mean, we scored a goal. It's only 1 goal down. We're in this game now. And then all of a sudden, it was like a switch. Bang! They started playing better. They started looking cleaner, crisper type of passes going on, and more chances. It was nuts.
And our possession, we were losing the possession battle in the first half. It switched over, which I've talked about numerous times about how we're not very good when we control possession.
Wow, we suck.
But we not only controlled it, we actually did something with it,
Well,
which is usually what happens when we control possession. We don't do something with
exactly.
it.
And the final numbers, and I've checked this on MLS, I've checked it on a couple of sources, the final possession ended up 56% in favor for Minnesota. And in my mind, it felt to me, I question marked that twice because it felt higher to me. But yeah, coming out of that possession, the shots favored Minnesota 21-12.
Yeah.
Shots on target 9-4. Passing accuracy was better. I mean, statistically, up and down the board, it was.
And I think it had a lot to do with the fact that we had so little possession in the first half that in the second half we played so much better that it just really flipped everything.
Was it rope-a-dope? You let them just possess in the first half, and then they get tired from possessing the first half, and you come out in the second half, and you start.
I mean, it's possible. That would be tactically genius.
Did he quote Muhammad Ali during halftime and say rope-a-dope? Rope-a-dope?
I don't know.
Because that's
I
pretty
mean,
much.
maybe-
I mean, that's
maybe
pretty
Heath
much
is
what
a
it,
boxing
that's what it
fan.
feels like.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
They wore themselves out in the first half, and then we came out and said, "Now we're going to take it."
Yeah, they kept going. Like you brought up Darwin's first goal. He had a brace in the 82nd minute. Do you remember that goal? That was just a beauty from long range, 20, 30 yards out, maybe.
Yeah, I would think it was. I would think it would be 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we talk about last night's game, we'll talk about a player who got an even longer goal than that one.
Yeah,
So,
and we should bring up someone from last night's game who got a goal. Also got a goal.
Yes.
To finish off
The game
winning
winner.
goal.
The game
that
winner.
was
Mason Toy.
So who did Toy come in for? Was that for Angelo?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So Toy comes in for Angelo, which changes the dynamics a lot.
It was a 74th minute.
I mean, Toy's streaky. He's
Yes,
faster.
Faster. He's not a hold-up. Angelo's a hold-up guy.
Right.
We
It
know
changes the complete dynamics.
Complains.
Yeah.
So, and we saw that on that last goal. He got in there. I think it was was he streaking in? It was passed kind of in.
I'm going to be honest. I can't remember.
I think it was. He was streaking in.
No, I know what you're thinking. It was actually Ethan Finley had a great run
Okay.
down the right side. Ethan Finley came screaming down. He had a beautiful run. Finley crossed it over to Toy, who was kind of short range in front of the goal, kind of diving at the with his foot.
Gotcha.
So really credit to Ethan Finley on that assist. I mean, he made it easy for Toy, but actually both Toy was in the perfect spot. But I mean, I give all the credit to that. Of course, Toy for knocking it in, but it was Finley down the right.
But
it just made a tremendous run.
My point is, if that's Angelo there, he's not. He's not that type of guy.
We saw a little of that maybe in the Kansas City in the previous Open Cup match.
Yeah.
Kansas City, we saw a little Angelo Rodriguez speed there and making runs.
A little bit, but he's not that type
he's not
of guy.
Mason Toy.
And and that disappeared last night.
Yeah.
And we saw what Angelo really is. I still the Kansas City game. I'm fairly certain he had to be on speed. I don't know what else it was.
And that was, you said it was a Tuesday game, and it was, and that's I think a comment that I made before or just as he scored that goal was the fact that we were in Madison watching Forward Madison play FC Tucson that Saturday night, and we saw Mason Toy being subbed in the second half of that game, and I said 72 hours later, 3 days later, here he is subbing on late for Minnesota United. and scoring the game winner.
Yeah.
So it was,
and we can talk about that in a little bit, or in the second half, about how he hasn't performed for Madison.
Yeah.
So the fact that all of a sudden he gets himself a goal and he looks really good doing it, I think Madison's kind of wishing that. And we'll talk about the friendly too, which they probably hated quite a bit.
Sure.
With dealing with toy. But yeah, that was a U.S. Open Cup game that I wanted to see from this team, because obviously last year, everyone knows we didn't score any goals last year in U.S. Open Cup, yet we still won a game.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a very good game against a suddenly poor team in Kansas City. So to have a team that, like Houston, that's, they're a pretty solid team, especially at home.
Yes.
And having a 12th man that isn't a bunch of noisy, raucous fans, it's just climate.
and then coming down from 2 goals.
That's
maybe the biggest part of
This was such an incredible game to be able to watch. Mm-hmm. And I think the great thing about that is, as it's leaded in to the friendly in Madison, mm-hmm. which, I mean, I don't want to belittle Madison, but let's face it, that should have been a win.
Yeah.
And then it led into the game that we're going to talk about very soon. Yeah. It's good to see that there's something being generated by this team suddenly. I mean, even maybe the Colorado Rapids game was a blip, mm-hmm. where, because even in the Philly loss, we played maybe one of our best games we've had, in my opinion, in the season.
Yeah.
We still lost because of individual mistakes. But we're seeing something build here into the window, which we'll very briefly talk about at the second half. And it's maybe there's a snowball effect here. Maybe.
Does the Houston game define our season? Remember your define our season thing?
I haven't gotten to say that in a while.
I mean, the U.S. Open Cup, I just keep thinking, is it good for what ails you? I mean, they had serious problems. David, you touched on it. The 3-game league losing streak going into that match. Mm-hmm. It just was looking bleak, I guess. If it's a long season, there's going to be ups and downs. But this was we were definitely in the peak as opposed to valley of our season.
Maybe because we did it shorthanded. Mm-hmm. We did it without, quite possibly, this season, our best player.
Yes.
Romain.
Romain is,
maybe Houston does define our season, because something's changed.
Something has changed. You're right.
I mean, if we, and again, we'll probably talk about this very briefly again later on, if we go and beat San Jose, who's playing really well right now, mm-hmm. maybe Houston did trigger something.
Exactly. And look at everything that was against us in Houston. I'll bring it up again. The Heat, we don't play well there. We're down 2-0 at halftime. That's 2 big things.
Right.
That we're like, we're done. We're
right.
Put a fork in us. And we came back and won the game 3-2.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be the lead to the rest of the year. And we talked about this before the podcast, guys. There's a minefield of games at the end of the season.
Yes.
There's some really bad games. And everybody in the West, from the 5th place team, 4th or 5th?
I'd say it's 4th, yeah.
4th place all the way through, the 9th place team?
Last place, essentially.
Last place. They're bunched up. I mean, we're all bunched up together.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can touch on it later if we're talking, when we kind of put the season in recap. But since you brought it up, I mean, okay, so the Loons sit at 24 points.
Yep.
24 points, 6 in the standings. Your last place Portland Timbers are 17 points. So that's, a 7-point difference.
Exactly. But to my point, that we have this big, second half of the season coming up. This Houston game might be the game that kind of throws us through the rest of the season.
Exactly.
Because if we didn't win in KC, if we had lost in KC, I think we'd go into the second half going, well.
You mean KC at Allianz?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. At Allianz. Yes.
In the Open Cup.
Yeah. In the Open Cup.
And that's what. Yeah. It's a shame that maybe I know MLS teams don't take the U.S. Open Cup as seriously as they could or maybe should. I think should. But if it turns out that this is what turned around our season. Strong performances in a tournament. Right. Then going back into